welcome to the OpenAI Agents SDK, the simplest framework to create the AI agents at scale. At the end of this course, you will be able to create agent that you can command with your voice to send an email. The email body, the subject is generated by different agents, and another agent can use a web search tool to do the research on your topic. We can also have the guardrails on that for any harmful content on the input or even on the output, and many more things. So let's see the demo. Let's first see it in action. I'm going to run this. Send an email to sarthak@bitfumes.com saying this OpenAI Agent SDK is awesome.
The email about the OpenAI Agent SDK has been sent to sarthak@bitfumes.com. If you need any more assistance, feel free to ask.
That's great. So now let's see. Yes, we do have this email here in our mail trap. This is a tool I'm using, and we have created an agent which looks something like this, which I can show you from the visualization. And here we have the agent that is start. We have an email manager agent. It has the tool, and this is the real tool or agent as a tool. You will going to see when you watch the video or this course. Then we have a send email agent, which is delegate or handoff by email manager agent, which is again using a tool or agent as a tool. Watch the complete course. And overall, we will have these amazing concepts covered in this course. Plus, we are going to use the UV to manage our Python dependencies. So you're going to learn that. We're going to use the .env to manage the secrets, and at last a Python file where we have the Jarvis voice assistant, which you will again see at the end of this course. So let's get started. But why you should spend time learning about the OpenAI Agent SDK? What makes this Agent SDK so powerful that you should learn it? Very first feature, which is I am really excited about, is voice agent. With the voice agent, you can obviously say something, and then that audio is converted to first to text. That means speech to text model turn the audio into text. Then the text will be fed into the LLM. We get some output, and finally text is converted back to speech to turn the result back into audio. Next feature I'm excited is the tracing. Now, tracing or debugging any agent is really important because agent's kind of a black box, or AI is a black box. What happened inside it, nobody knows. What will be the output, nobody knows. But if you can trace what actually happening behind the scene of an agent, it's a golden opportunity to create really efficient agent. And OpenAI provide very nice interface for every agent you run. So see, agent workflow, how many handoff, how many tools, how much time it took to execute. Don't worry about the handoff and tool, we will going to see later. But this tracing is built inside of the OpenAI Agent SDK. That means you don't have to worry about adding any other package. It records every event during an agent run. But tracing is really powerful. As I told you, it gives you the insight of the agent running. And here you can see it includes every request going into the LLM. It shows model, token, and input for the event. So see, here we have which model we have used, how many token it has used, and the response type, instruction, input, output, everything is here. Tracing is really amazing when you are using the voice agent. It can record the voice event. You can actually play the voice which is coming inside as the input or the output voice or the audio which is coming from the LLM. Tracing is the heart of creating the agent with the OpenAI Agent SDK. Now, the next feature is using agent as a tool. If you have knowledge about the LLM and using of tool, you know that we can turn any function into a tool, and whenever LLM need to call something, let's say web search, it can go to the function and run that function which actually do the web search. But you can create an agent inside the agent SDK and use that agent as the tool. This is really a new fresh idea. You can see we have created a Spanish agent and a French agent, but we are using these agents as a tool. This is so simple. Next, very important feature of OpenAI Agent SDK is Guardrails. It adds filters to input or output of your agent. The Guardrails runs parallel to the agents you have in your agent system. And the best part is this agent immediately raise error at any point in your agent workflow if it found any malicious usage. Let's say some bad words, some private information is there. You set the guardrail to detect all these and it's just going to trigger and it is raising error, stopping the agent workflow. Next big feature is agent visualization. You can actually see how the flow goes when the agent start working on something. In our email agent, we can see we have an email manager. It can use the email constructor. It can use the web search tool, but it can also hand off to the email sender. But again, if you're not sure about handoff, don't worry. We will going to learn that later. And then the handoff agent can also have some other tool, send email, and finally it goes till the end. This is visualization which is extremely powerful. Now, I use this word handoffs many times. Now, what is handoff? So handoff is basically delegating the task to another agent. And why this is useful? Because every agent is specialized on certain task. So if I am good at Python and my friend is good at Java, I do something on the Python, but whenever I need to do something on the Java, instead of me doing the Java code, which I am not good at, I can delegate that particular task to my friend. And this is what handoffs mean, which is simply moving the task or delegating the task to other agent. Handoffs are represented as a tool to the LLM. That means it only do the handoff when needed, just like using the tool. Other features of OpenAI Agents SDK are MCP support. You can use MCP tools. Use any other LLM other than the OpenAI. It's not mandatory that you need to use the GPT models. You can use Gemini, you can use Grok, Grok with the Q, you can use any open source LLM, the Anthropic, anything as your wish. Next important feature is the session for the conversation. And it also includes many other features which are not listed here but are useful. Now, since we know how powerful the OpenAI Agents SDK is, it's important to understand what we will learn in this course. So first of all, we will going to the getting started part. That means setting up our OpenAI Agents SDK. We will create an agent, our first ever agent, to summarize the long text. This is a very simple but give you an idea of how to get started with the agent. Then we will create the visualization for our agent and see how things flows from start till end. Then we will do the tracing part. That means add tracing or even disabling if we don't want. But it's important to understand how we can debug the flow of the agent SDK to understand what happening behind the scene. Then we will work on the structured output, how the agent can create a structured output. Let's say for an email agent, we need the agent to return us the email body and the email subject. And this we can achieve with the help of Pydantic Python library. And this structured output is helpful when you want to pass information from one agent to another. It could be the handoff, or it could be using other agent as a tool. Talking about tool, yes, we will going to create our tool that can send the email. Yes, really sending the email. And the agent will going to use this tool whenever it's feel like, okay, I need to send an email, so use this tool. But we will also see how we can use the inbuilt tool of the OpenAI Agent SDK. For example, the web search tool. And we will going to create the agent that will going to generate the email subject and the body, and use this agent as a tool on another agent. After that, we will take a look on session, like having a conversation where the agent remembers the chat history, and the handoffs. I told you the handoffs is delegating tasks from one agent to another agent. So for our case, we will have a email agent, but at last, once email is there, we will going to hand off the email to the email sender agent, which is only responsible for sending the email. Then the most important feature, which we are going to see, guardrails. So we will going to safeguard our agent input and output for the email thing we are creating. Guardrail trips if something bad is included either in the input or in the output. So let's say you say like, I will going to kill you. Send an email this to my friend. Okay, at this point, guardrail trips and it will not going to execute the agent. So guardrail is actually a combination of agent and a function. We will going to see when we will reach to the guardrail level. And finally, my favorite, voice agent. We will allow agent to talk to and send them to send email for given topic. But at the end, I'm going to give you a bonus, creating a Jarvis voice agent. This agent will only be invoked when you say Jarvis. So just like this, Jarvis, send an email to my friend, and it will going to yes perform the action for you. Now before actually getting into the documentation of Agent SDK or even starting the cursor to create new file, let's understand what is AI agent and why we need them. So suppose we want to send an email. A manual work is simple. We go to the ChatGPT, we describe the email. Once it is created, then we copy and paste to the Gmail compose. We add the subject, sender ID, and hit send. That's a simple thing. But what if you need to send 20, 50 emails every day? So instead of you doing it, what we can do, we can hire a human person, a human assistant. Then we describe this to human assistant that, hey, send email to client ABC that we are scheduling meeting tomorrow. Now the human assistant will again go to the ChatGPT because he or she is a human. Then he will copy and paste thing into the Gmail. He will go and find out the email of the ABC client, then check for the available slot for the meeting on the calendar, add the subject, email ID, and hit send. Now this is okay, but we are again hiring an human assistant. What if we add a AI assistant, or we call it AI agent? Now AI agent will do things really well. How? We again say, hey AI agent, send an email to ABC client and tell them we are scheduling a meeting tomorrow. What this agent will going to do, agent will first use a high level advanced LLM to write the email, because email body should be really precise. Then at the same time, while the advanced LLM is writing the email, the agent can delegate the subject writing task to a mini LLM, which we don't want to spend huge compute or huge money on that. So it will write the subject. Again, while these two are working, the agent can again delegate the task to another agent or maybe use any tool for guardrail. So it check for any unethical or avoidable sentence we get from the email or from the subject. At that point, agent can also trigger a tool that can find the email of ABC client and check for the available slot for a meeting. Finally, once the agent get all of these information, then agent will going to hand off the task to another agent, which is going to set the subject and email and finally going to send the email. In this case, we have seen the handoff, the tool use using other AI agent as the tool. We have a guardrail, we have a lot more things, and this makes an AI agent. But this agent works autonomously. Suppose in the prompt we said that the ABC client is having the email of abc@xyz.com. Then since in the prompt we are saying what will be the email, then agent will not going to trigger this tool because it knows that there is an email. And this decision making ability of AI is actually making it an agent which is autonomously decide, it create the plan and then execute it. To get started with OpenAI Agents SDK, let's search for OpenAI Agents SDK. Let's go on the website, which is basically openai.github.io/OpenAI Agents Python. And this page is basically the documentation of all the things inside the Agent SDK. I want to go into the quick start so that I can really get started with this. Yes, we can do all of these things to create the new Python virtual environment, activate it, and then install all of these things. We can do that, but what I'm going to use is this UV thing. Now what this UV is, so let's search for UV, and this is the Astral Docs, and this is extremely fast Python package and project management, and yes, it is really faster. So what I will do, I will install this by using this. Once this is installed, if I open the terminal and I can say UV version, yes, I get that. Once we have the UV version, what I have to do is UV, then I need to say init, I think, yeah, init with a dot means in the current directory. When I do that, you can see I get a lot of, not a lot of, like 5 files. Gitignore, you already know what that is. .python version. The power of UV is you can define the Python version directly inside this, and it's so easy to manage the Python version. Then we have the main.py, obviously the main Python file which is going to be run, and then we have the project.toml. This file is responsible for all the information we want to have at one place. This UV track the dependencies, it tracked the Python version, the readme, description, project version and project name. But how do we run this main.py? So we say UV run main.py, and you can see hello from the agent. Once we ran this, you have noticed that we have not created any virtual environment. Since we have not created the virtual environment, we don't have to activate it. But as soon as I run this, it automatically created the virtual environment for us. And this is the real power of UV, that you don't have to initiate or create the virtual environment. It automatically does that. So if I restart my terminal, you will see that this Python virtual environment will be available always to me. Great. Now let's start with the OpenAI Agent SDK. It says we need to first install the OpenAI Agents SDK using this UV. So With the UV, it's very simple. Generally, we do pip install. With UV, we replace the pip with UV and we replace the install with add. Okay, so let's copy this, go here and then paste it. And you can see very quickly, real quickly, we have the system ready here. Now, what I can do, I say from agents, import agent, and then I can simply print agent and see what's going to happen. Right now it says image agents could not be resolved. We will see once we run the main.py and we get the agent. That means it's working. If you are still getting this kind of error, simply press Command Shift and P and I say reload window. When we reload the window, it will recheck everything and hopefully the error will be resolved. And yes, now it is resolved. So if I now open the new terminal, it is automatically activated my virtual environment. And now let's start creating our first ever agent. To create our first ever AI agent, we first need to get the OpenAI API key. And for that, we need to go into the platform.openai.com. Once you log in there, then go to the settings, organization, API key and create new secret key. Give the name as agent SDK and you can name it anything by the way and give the tutorial. Once you click on create secret key, you will get that. And what you need to do is you need to run export OpenAI API key. It's very important. OpenAI underscore API underscore key. Okay, now let's go something like this. Paste the key and hit export. Now you can verify by saying echo dollar OpenAI API key. If you are getting back the same key, that means you are good to go. Now, once we have this, then we can start creating our agent from agents import agent. But I'm not going to do it in the Python file, although I will going to use the Jupyter notebook inside this cursor or VS Code. Once I go inside the extensions, I will search for Jupyter, and once you get that, you can install this Jupyter notebook extension. And after installing this, you can simply press Command Shift P, search for Jupyter, and here we can say new Jupyter notebook. I will create this new Jupyter notebook into a directory called tutorial. Now I will again press Command Shift P and say Jupyter, create new Jupyter notebook, and you can see this is having the name of IPYNB. So py is Python, NB is notebook, I is I don't know. Okay, now I want to save this, so I will just press Command S and it's asking where to save. I will go inside this and I will call it 01 first agent, and you can see we have this Jupyter notebook. Now, for every Jupyter notebook, you need to select the Python kernel. So you can see select kernel and it will give you two options. You can use the existing Jupyter server or Python environment. We have the Python environment, so go and click on this .env, bin and Python. So let's click there and yep, we are here. Now test it by saying print hello world, and I will press Ctrl and enter to execute this cell. Although this is asking to install some of the things, just install it, and if not, then you will going to get this kind of error. You can simply say pip install IPY. So what we will do, we will actually going to install this using the UV. So UV add this IPY kernel. So I believe this should work. So save this file and press Ctrl and then enter, and it's connecting to kernel, and wow, we have the hello world here. That means we are good to start with our agent. So I'll say from agents, everything in the OpenAI Agents SDK is imported from agents. That's really intuitive and simple. I'm going to import the agent. Once we have this agent, then we can create the new instance of our agent. How? We call it my first, like this, my first agent is equal to, we have to say agent, and then we need to provide some of the things. First of all, we need to provide the name, and after that we also need to provide the instruction. Now, instruction is the one which is defining what this agent is all about. So for now, I'll say you can answer and help with a task, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else to get started. Now, you have created the new instance of agent. So let's see what we will get when I just print the instance. We haven't ran this agent. We just created the agent that, hey agent, your name is this, you do this, but we have not used this agent. So I'm going to run this and see what happened. Now see, this agent is having all the information it needed. Now, name is there, handoff description, none, tool is none, MCP server none, configuration none, instruction which we have defined, prompt is none, handoff again none, some of the other settings, model settings, and much more. Okay, so this is good. We have created the agent. How do we run this agent? Let's go to the documentation. And here you can see once we have created the agent, then at last you will see that we need to run it. Now, running the agent orchestration, for that we need to import a runner which is going to run the agent. And how do we run it? We need to say runner.run, and run function need two things. One is the agent name or the instance we have created, and second is actual prompt, what we want this agent to do. And once we have this, we can simply print the final output. Let's do this. So from agents, import runner. This is now an important one. And now I say result is equal to await. Remember, this is going to be await, not normal function. And now what is the capital of France? When we save this, we can actually move this agent directly to runner like here, and then finally we simply print it. Okay, result, and for now I'm printing everything in the result, and we will see what we get. We get error. What the error says? At the last, it says API key client must be set. Interesting. We have already said that. Let's again do echo. It is there. Okay, so if it is not working, what we can do, we can create a .env file like this and paste the entire API key here, like here. So basically it's OpenAI API key and everything is here. Now we need to load this .env file in our Jupyter notebook. So I will create another code section above and say import OS, and then we need to also use the .env package, which is going to load all the environment variables from the .env, and then it will provide everything. Now we can simply run this, control and enter, and it's getting true. That means yes, we are having. If you're getting any error, so please try to load this or install this dependency, so uv add .env, something like that. Now since we have this, now OpenAI API key is available, so we can again try and hit enter, and yes, we are not getting error, although it's doing something. And now we can see we have the run result. So last agent, agent name, and all other detail. Final output, capital of France is Paris, and other more detail. So congratulations, you have created your first AI agent of your own. But this is extremely simple. You will say, Sarthak, why we need to do all of these things if we can simply use the OpenAI package in Python and run it? Wait, don't worry, because we have lot of amazing thing in the agent that makes it powerful. This is just the beginning. Now let's move to the next step on this course. Now we know how to create an agent and run an agent. Let's now see how we can visualize the agent and its flow. For that, we can go to the sidebar and we can see we have this agent visualization. When we go here with this agent visualization, we get this kind of graph which tells how the things goes on the agent we have created. But you will say, Sarthak, we have just created a very simple basic agent. How this visualization will help us? Okay, yes, I understand that. At this point, the visualization of the agent looks very simple and basic. But we but if we have the habit of seeing the agent visualized, then this will be really helpful to create a great massive AI agent. Okay, how do we add it? We need to add this OpenAI Agents Viz. Remember, we are not using pip, we are using the UV. So just copy the package name and then go here, UV, add this. Okay, so now it says it's not available because we need to use it in the double quotes. Now, once this is here, we can create another file on this tutorials directory and I call it agent visualization, and this is the second one. Cool. Since we have already ran this, then we don't need to load the .env once again, so I can totally remove it. And to prove that it's going to work, I will have this agent working, and you can see we have the result. Now we want to see this agent visualization. How do we do that? For this, we can simply import draw graph from our agent extension visualization. Okay, if this is good, then I can simply have this. Then what? Then at the last, we need to use this draw graph function, pass the agent, and that's it. Cool. Run it, and we have our first agent. Now, once again, to run this cell, we press Ctrl and Enter, and very soon you will see that our graph or the visualization of agent is available. Here it is. You can see it's super duper simple. Start, the agent, end. That's visualization. And this is now helpful since we know at the beginning of our learning how to visualize the agent. As we progress, we will see how this graph will go and improve itself because we are going to add more agent, more tools, more functionalities, and that will be really interesting to see how this visualization will be at the end. You know what? Creating agent is obviously amazing. Visualizing the agent is really helpful. But if you want to create more complex agent, then first you need to understand how you can debug the agent, how you can see what's happening behind the scene of an agent. And that's where the traces comes in the picture. Once again, let's go in the left sidebar and see the tracing. This tracing is helpful to understand what's happening behind the scene of an agent. The good part about the OpenAI Agent SDK is it enabled the tracing by default. That means if I go here, I run this, and once this is completed, and if I go to the tracing dashboard, you will see the first we have created is real time updated. And here we have the latest one which we just ran. Now if I go inside of this tracing, I can see everything, whatever happening into the agent. See, the agent is this. It took 1966 millisecond, and inside this agent, it actually had a API call on the OpenAI API with more information. The information is like it uses the default model of GPT-4o. Then total token it has used is 40. Then response type is text, then the instruction, the system instruction, what is the input, and finally what is the output. This is tracing, which is really powerful thing, but we can disable it if you don't want this, and you can have a group of tracing also. So what this means, I can show you by creating two different agents. First of all, I will go and create a new file and we call it tracing. Here I will convert this to information agent, and another agent will be summarization agent. Okay, so these two agents are here. We need to just change this. You are helpful agent, uh, agent. So these two are here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to first get the information for a topic from agent 1 and then feed that information into agent 2 so that it can summarize it. Okay, so this will be first information agent, and I will say tell me more about India, since I'm from India. So I will say information, and then just to check I'll say information dot final output, and for now I will just disable this visualization thing, run this agent and see what's going to happen. So see, we get a lot of information here. Now what we can do, we can feed the information to our next agent. So I'll say summary is equal to await runner dot summarization, and the information we get from the agent 1 we are feeding as the text or the prompt here. Now this should be the final output. So if I run it once again, you will see that this is going to give me just the summary of whatever information we get. And here we are, we just get a simple summary. Now one more thing I just want to show you is we can use different models. So this model is GPT-4o, which is taking time plus expensive. I can use the GPT-4o mini, simple and powerful. Now if I just run it, but before running it I want to show you the tracing. So what we can do, we can go and see how we can add the combined tracing. So with that we need to import the trace and say with trace and the name of the tracing, and whatever you run inside it will be combined in one tracing. Let me show you how. But before that, since we have ran these two agents 2-3 times, if I go on this tracing dashboard, you can see we have the first agent and then we have the summarization agent. All these are individual. Let's combine these. So from agents, import trace with a small t, because there is also one capital T, so we are not using the capital T. Then we say with trace and we call it summarization, and then inside this we put these two like here. Okay, once we are doing it and we run this, since we are using the GPT-4o mini, it will be quicker, and since we have combined these two agent run part into one tracing summarization, we will have a nice tracing in our trace dashboard. So the summary is here, and if I go on the trace dashboard, reload it, very soon we will see that yes, now we have a workflow called summarization. In that we have two agents, my first agent and summarization agent. If I get inside it, it include tracing of both of the agent plus all the information it is providing. Superb! This is the power of tracing. After tracing, we need to understand the structured output we can get from an agent. But why we need this structured output and how we can get the structured output? Let's see. So I have created a new file 04 structured output, and here we already have two different agents. Now let's restructure them to create something better. We have the information agent, so we call it information agent. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, instead of summarization agent, I'm going to call it email writing agent. Okay, so this agent is going to write the email. For this, I'm going to change the instruction. I'll say you're a helpful agent that can write a professional email and engaging subject. And I can say email subject. Okay, so this is going to create the email and the subject of it. Maybe I can call it email body. Okay, now we call it email writing. This is the tracing, and instead of this we can call it email. So let's see how this email will be here once we run it. So tell me about the India, and let's run this. Let's see what's going to happen. Finally, we get the subject as the markdown, and then we have dashes, and there is no point like where the email body is starting. It's not structured, and you get why we need a structured output, because we need to feed the subject and the body in a different way when we really need to send the email. So how do we create a structured output? For that, we need to use the Pydantic model. So in a new code sample or code cell of Jupyter Notebook, I'll say from Pydantic import what we are importing, base model. And remember to add this uv add Pydantic. This package is installed, and I'm going to create a class called email, which is going to extend the base model of the Pydantic. And then here I provide the subject which is going to be the string, and body is also going to be the string. Now on the email writing agent, we can define the output type. So right now I'll define the output type as email. Now before running this, I want to take you to the traces and see what happened on our previous execution. So here if I go on the email writing, this is one which we just ran. If I see on the email writing agent, this agent, the response type is text, and that's why we were getting this text form or generally the markdown form. But since we have defined the output type as the email, which is a Pydantic model, if I run it, again it's first of all giving some error. Email is not defined because I have not ran this cell. So run this cell and then again run it. Cool. Now this will do some magic and give us the subject and the body in a structured form. Okay, so this time, yes, we are getting subject, which is really nice, and then the body, which is again precisely defined where it starts and where it ends. Now let's go to the traces, get back to the latest one, which is here. And now what I'm going to do, I will show you the response, which is JSON schema, not text. And that's why the output is a structured JSON output, which we are getting here. Now you know why structured output is so useful and why the tracing is useful. Remember, I told you the structured output will be useful when we really want to send the email. But how do an agent send an email? For that, we will need to understand the concept of tool use. And for that, I have created a new file 05 tool use. It is having all the code as we had on the structured output. Plus, I have a new code cell which is explaining how you can use or create a tool. You can see I have imported function tool. This is a decorator we can put on any normal Python function just like this, and then this function becomes the tool that you can add to your agent. So see, this tool get weather information is having this description which say perform the API call to fetch weather information for the given city. Right now I'm just giving sunny all of the time, but in reality you need to call an API. Now I also have an agent which is just going to give you weather information for the city or country. And then the new thing is we have added a tools section which is going to be a collection of the tools. Here get weather info is the name of the function I have here. Now to show you how things are there, I just want to print the agent, nothing else. And this time you can see obviously the name, handoff, but here we have a tool which is actually a function tool. Function tool means defining a Python function, converting that into a tool. And then the name is here, description is here, and you can see it is picking the description we have in this triple quote, performing API call, like that. Okay, and after that it has params if we need any information, then title, get info, type, all of these things. So if we say we need the place as a string, and now if I run it again, you can see on this JSON we need a property place. So whenever we run this, it will going to add the title as the place as the value we define. So we say result is equal to await runner dot run agent, what is the weather in Tokyo. Very soon it will give a very nice answer that the weather in Tokyo is sunny. Good. So this is how we use the tool. But remember I told you we need to really send the email. For that, let's create our own structured output with tool use. Okay, so in a new code block, I'm going to define from agents import function tool like this with the underscore, then creating a simple Python function which is called send email, and this send email will going to need the email, but I can call it, let's say, message or maybe body, whatever you want to call. I will call it message right now. Then to, like, to whom you want to send this, and also the subject. Okay, so all these three will be needed to send the email. Now to make it a real tool that we can use here, we need to decorate it with this decorator, and here we can define, okay, sending the email sending successful, so like this, and we don't need this agent because we already have the agent. Okay, so this is done. Now what we can do, we can actually say to this email writing agent that hey, send the email, and let's update the instruction. Say once we have both, then send the email. That's so simple, to the recipient. Okay, now here, just to check what we are getting, I'm going to print out all of these things, sending email to with a subject and a message. Okay, everything is good. Let's run this cell, which is where we have created the send email tool, and then this combination of these two agent, information agent and email writing agent. So theoretically this should send the email, obviously not the real one because we have not implemented, but we should get the print. So we get some error. Okay, now it says email is not defined because we have not run the Pydantic cell. Once done, we can again run it, and very soon once it create the email body and the subject, then it will go to the tool where it just print things and say that email sent successfully. Okay, it really had everything. So remember, the print says send email to with subject and the message. Send email to, it automatically pick the random email ID with the subject this and message this. Now let's see this in tracing. So email writing, the workflow, and see, it has the information agent which give the information about India, a lot of great things. Then it goes to the email writing which took 14 seconds. It has some more information now. Now this function is here which is send email, and it says we have this instruction, then we have the input, whatever we get from the information agent we are having here, and finally after that we can see it says the output is not the real email. It has the output where it is calling the function or the tool with the message as the email body, to as the random email, and here we have the subject. This is for the function calling. Now since it is calling, the tool calling or function calling is the same thing. Now let's go to the send email tool, which is obviously receiving these two things, and it says email sent successfully. But I can see it ran 2 times. Not sure why. We can debug it, but finally you can see it is having the response which says all of the things. Like we have the subject and the body, and we also have the email sent successfully from our tool. Now what? We actually need to really send the email. So how we do that? I will go to the mail trap. This is nice website where you can use to check the email configuration. I will go and inside the Python, grab this, copy it, go to the function which is we have created, the tool we have created, and now here I'm going to paste it, and this should be indented like this, and see what happening. We are importing this SMTP library, and we say sender. So sender is obviously Sarthak. So Sarthak at bitfilms.com. Now the to part is interesting. So where is that? Yeah, here. So to part is going to be just the to section. So instead of this, we can say receiver is to. The to is coming from here. Okay. Then we have the message. Message include the subject. So we need to say we have the subject. The receiver is this to. From sender is this, and this is the email. So this should be the message like this. Now everything is done. We are logging in and then we are sending, and finally it says email sent successfully. And if everything goes fine, then we should see the email sent. And if I run it, if everything is fine, then we should get the message here on our inbox of mail trap. Ran for 51.6 seconds, but we can't see the email in our mail trap. I just debugged it and found that what we need to do is we don't need any indentation here. So it would be like the message starting without any space. Okay, once we are done with that, we have to execute it. So execute this one, which is done, and now send again the email. So finally it ran, and on mail trap we can see we have this email. Good, but there's two problems. One is obviously it sent two email. Why? We need to debug. And if I go, when I was trying previously, you can see there was the multiple try of the sending email, but because of that error, the indentation issue, the mail trap was giving error. And the best part of the agent is it keep on trying sending email, but it getting fail or error response. We can restrict it like how many time it can check. So you can see it just keep on trying until I manually stopped it. But after that, when I fix it, it actually ran. What was the problem? So problem was simple. When I was indentating it, then I just removed this slash, and that was the simple problem. So I fixed that. Now this is good. So we fixed one problem, but what about this? Sending email twice. Why is that? Why it's sending email 2 times? See, what happened is, let's start from here. It first get the information and then write email. Okay, writing email is having this tool which is sending the email. Okay, and it says once you get that information and then send the email. Looks like everything is fine, but still it is sending 2 times, or it is calling the email every 2 times. So see, once this, and both of the time it is actually having different information. So dear recipient, I want to take a moment, and this one is, I hope this email finds you well, and where these two information are coming from. So let's see, first is this one, hello, this email finds you well, but again it's calling it, I want to take a moment. So this means the email writing agent is actually doing things twice. Okay, so maybe what we have here, problem in the email writing agent. We are saying that your helpful agent writing the email body and engaging subject. Okay, good. But it says once we have both, then send the email. Now what we can do, we can remove this line and we say that, okay, you are only writing the email and finally sending. So I just say finally send the email. That's it. That's the only thing I will say. Run this again and see what's going to happen now. And finally, we are getting only one email. So see, yep, we get one email. And here, if I go on the traces, yes, there are some glitches here, but these glitches because in our message we have this new line, this brackets, and all of these things which sometimes makes issue on our email sending thing. So how we fix it? We fix it by generating the HTML form of the email, creating another new agent which we will use. But before that, what I will do, instead of relying on the information agent own knowledge, we want to provide the ability to web search. Now at this point you can see this information agent is giving information from its own knowledge, which is obviously limited. So let's add a web search ability. For that, we will go to the OpenAI Agent SDK, and here we have the hosted tools. There are many hosted tools, means the tools given by the Agent SDK by default. So web search tool, file search tool, computer tool, a lot more. We are going to use the web search tool. How? Let's see. So here I'm going to create another code and copy this, paste it here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this import from here and put this import at the top. So it will be like all the import will be here. So something like this. Just like you want to structure your file, it's just as simple as that. So I can cut that to from here and then paste it. Now the good part is now we can move this to a single line. Similar to this, I also want to import web search tool. Great. Now I import it and then run this cell. You can see it's ran. Now I can simply go here on the information agent and give the ability as tool to web search. Now keep in mind that when you're using the hosted tool, you need to call that tool like with this parenthesis. Okay, but remember, if you have created your own function tool, which is send email in our case, it doesn't need to be called with parenthesis. Okay, this is very important thing. Now we need to change the instruction a little bit. Your helpful assistant that can answer the question in detail by fetching latest information from web search. Now, since we have defined that it need to use the web search, it will going to use the web search tool. Okay, that's great. Now everything is fine. What I'm going to do is I will go run everything. Okay, so we do have this run all button. So just hit this run all and see everything is working. Yep, this is started working, and very soon we should have the email in our mail trap here. Okay, so we get some max turn exceeded. Why is that? Because if we go on the traces, this is failing almost every time. And this is because ASCII can't encode character like that. So what we can do, we can convert this into HTML. So how do we do that? We need to do two things. First of all, we need to tell our agent to generate the HTML body instead of plain text body. So here we have the professional email body, and we can say professional HTML format of email body. Just by adding this, it will going to generate the HTML form of our email body. Just to test, I'm going to comment this tool which is sending the email, and then I say result is equal to running this, printing out, and for now just comment all of these things and see how it is actually going to generate the HTML, whether not. Okay, so you can see quickly we are having this, and we have subject, then we have the body which is an HTML form. Cool. Now since we have the HTML form of our email body, it's now time to update the send email tool to really send the HTML instead of plain text. So we do have all of these things. So what we can do, we can first say message is equal to MIME multipart, and this can be alternative, and then we need to import this, and to import we can say from email multipart, and obviously we need the MIME text. Now we have the message, then we say message subject is subject, tool is to, from is from, and we don't need this kind of a structure. And finally we say message dot attach, and I'm just attaching the HTML form of the message, which is the HTML message. We will call it, we rename this to HTML message. Once everything is done, then we can run this function and it's working. And finally we can go at the last where we have a writing email function, the agent, not the function, and then run it and see how this is going to generate the email in HTML form and send it. And finally you can see we do have the email which is looking really nice since it's a HTML form, and we can see the traces. It just got the new thing, so I input latest update on the AI agent, so I changed the input by the way, and here you can see now it is using the web search tool. So first of all, when it runs, then it says like, okay, I need to do a web search. So it does the web search, and once it get the web search result, it pass the web search result into this email writing agent. You see, this entire result of the web search is here as an input for our email writing agent, and this is how you use the hosted tool of OpenAI Agents SDK. The next important topic is my favorite, using agent as tool. So we just saw that we can create our own tool just like sending an email. We can also use the hosted tool just like web search tool, but we can create an agent and pass that agent to another agent and tell to the another agent that, hey, use this agent as a tool. If you're not getting it, let me show you. First of all, we can see we have email writing agent, but this agent is doing too many things. See, it is actually responsible for writing the HTML form of email. It is also responsible for writing engaging subject, and it is also responsible for sending the email. Let's delegate some of its tasks to other agent and then use that agent as a tool here. How? Let's see. I'm going to create a new cell above this and I'm calling it HTML email agent. This means this agent is going to create the HTML format of the email body. So how this is going to perform? HTML email agent is the name. Instruction, your helpful assistant that can write HTML engaging HTML email body. That's it. We don't want anything else. And if we want, we can provide like make sure the design of email is professional and beautiful. Okay, that's good. Now for this we can use 4.1 mini model. I can use any other model. And now see, this is not using any tool. This is not using any output type. And we can just test it out by saying the result is this and final output. Write me a HTML format email of the body, latest update on the AI agent. Okay, so let's see how this is going to perform. Oops, it says name agent is not defined. Okay, so since this is a new file, I need to run everything from top to bottom. Okay, now we are good here and you can see it's running, and very soon we should get the HTML format of our email. That's great. You can see now we have the HTML format of the email. If you want, you can provide a Pydantic model and say that class HTML email, it should be base model and it should return the HTML email. And finally, we say output type is HTML email. Why this is important? Again, since we want this agent to used as a tool, it will be really nice if we provide the structured output so that the agent should not add any other thing like here is your HTML format like that. Okay, so here we have HTML email and entire HTML is here. That's good. Now we can remove these testing part and clear out the output. Okay, so we have an agent that is only responsible for writing the HTML format. Similar to this, we can also create the subject agent. This is responsible for writing a engaging subject. So professional subject for email. That's good. We can create the Pydantic model for this. So class email subject base model, subject is here. Provide this as email subject. Nice. Let's test this out. Write a subject for the email latest update on the AI agent, and we got this. Wow, this is nice. Okay, so if you see clearly, we do have two different agents responsible for two different things: writing HTML form of email body and writing subject. On this email writing agent, what we can do, we can change this to email manager agent because this is managing everything, and then email manager agent. Okay, then what we are going to do here, we will tell that, hey, yes, you can send the email, but also you have the ability to use subject agent dot as tool. Now it's really important to use this as tool, and if you're using this as a tool, you need to say that, hey, tool name, I want to call this as a tool name is subject agent, and tool description is a tool that can write the subject. Okay, next is HTML email body agent as tool once again, and again providing the name and the description. This is really important to use the tool name, tool description, and using the agent as a tool. Once you describe these two things, then what's going to happen? Now I'm just going to comment the send email so that I should not send the email. This agent should not send the email. Now we should say like instruction, your helpful assistant that can write the professional HTML format of the email body using now we should provide the using HTML email agent tool, and instead of saying HTML email agent, I just say the name as HTML email tool and subject tool. Okay, so now HTML email tool and engaging subject using the subject tool, and then send the email using the send email tool. So we should just remove it for now and see how this is going to perform. Okay, now we have renamed it, so it should be email manager. Okay, now let's see what's going to happen when I run it. This is great. You can see we are having this subject and then we are having the body in the form of HTML. Wow, this is really nice, because now we understand that how we can use any other agent as tool. It would be good if we can take a look on the traces, how this OpenAI treating this agent as a tool thing. So we do have this. Now after getting the information, it passes information to email manager, and then email manager is going to call subject tool. Remember, this subject tool is a tool for email manager, but we know it's actually a agent, and that's why when email manager agent calling subject tool, it actually initiated the subject agent, and that's how we get this subject. And then we have same for HTML email tool, which is actually invoking the HTML email agent. Now, at this point, I want to take you back to the agent visualization. Remember, we learned about that? Now, since our agent is now using a lot of different things, it has the email, send email tool, it has the agent as tool. Let's visualize and see how it is looking. So I just want to visualize it. So I just go and comment these things so that I can visualize it. And here the email manager, run it, and this time you can see the email send manager agent is having three different tool. The green ones are tool: send email tool, subject tool, HTML email tool. And it start, it can use these tools, and finally it ends. This is the power of visualization to understand how things are happening on the agent. By looking into this visualization, we can see the email manager agent is doing all of these things. Again, we can remove or delegate the task. Remember, delegate, remind me the handoffs. So we are going to understand about the handoffs. So email manager agent is creating the subject, obviously using the tool, similarly using the HTML email tool to create the HTML form of the email, and it is also responsible for sending the email. What we can do, once it gather all the information, it just delegate the task of sending the email to another agent, and here handoffs comes in picture. Okay, so see, we do have this email manager agent which is having the send email tool to actually send the email. We can remove it from here, and then we can create another agent. Yes, we are using a lot of agent. This is how the agent orchestration comes, and this is actually creating the agent. Okay, so this is send email agent, which is your helpful assistant that can send the email with the given recipient and given message and subject. Using this 4.1, I don't want any kind of output style, but it does need the tool how to send the email. Now we do have this send email agent. How do we delegate the task to this send email agent? Using the handoffs. So remember, we have imports at the top, so I just say hand off. Once we have this handoff imported from the agent, once again go on our manager email, we can say handoff is again this agent. Wow, that's so simple. This is how it is working. And now, before actually running it, let's do some visualization. And I should run everything from start, and cool. You can see now visualization is totally different. It starts from email manager agent, which is going to generate the subject and the HTML email. And then what it does, it move all the responsibility to the send email agent. Now it's the send email agent's responsibility to actually send the email and finally end the workflow. This is the power of handoff. Now let's see what it does if we actually run it, and it should send the email. But before that, we need to do one more thing, like and then handoff the send email so that the send email agent can really send it. Okay, everything is good. Now let's run it. But we get this error message which says like recipient email address is not provided, because if we see in our send email agent, we have said that send email to the given recipient, but we have not given any recipient. So for now, just to fix this, I'm going to just hard code the email ID, but later on we will see how we can use the guardrail to check if we have provided the recipient email or not. If not, then ask user to give the recipient email and then continue. Okay, we will do that later with the guardrails, but now we say recipient email ID is sarthak@bitfumes.com. Now this is good, and let's run this once again. This time it should send the email to the given recipient address. Okay, it has sent the email. Let's see. This is the trace which we can see. Yep, we have this. We go from information agent, then email manager agent, subject tool, HTML tool, then we are handoff to the send email agent. On the send email agent handoff, we are actually sending the email and then getting the response. Check this email, which is really nice, having full HTML format, beautiful design. Great, we have done that. But now we need to understand how we can ask for users email ID, recipient's email ID with the help of guardrail concept. Now to create the guardrail which will ask user for the recipient email ID if not available, I'm first going to remove this recipient email ID from the instruction of the email manager prompt, email manager agent, and then above this I'm going to create a new code block. Here I'm going to say input guardrail. Now why I'm saying input? Because there can be an input guardrail and an output guardrail. Input guardrail will going to check whatever we define, let's say the recipient email ID on the input side. Output guardrail can check the response we get from the AI. So let's say we want to check whether it include any specific HTML tag on the email body or not. We can have the guardrail which check for that, and if not, it raise an error. In terms of guardrail, we call it tripwise triggered. Now let's see the guardrails in the documentation. So guardrails runs in parallel to your agent, enable you to check and validate user input. And how do we use it? It's super simple. We first need to create the guardrail as a normal AI agent we create. So just like any agent, we create the guardrail. But then we need to provide the output type, which is important. And in that we provide the reasoning, like why it tripped, and the boolean which says whether it is triggered or not. Then we create a function which is having a decorator. Remember, we created a function to create a functional tool and decorated with function tool. Just like that, we create a async function, and then add the input guardrail decorator. This async function will accept context, then the agent, and finally it also accept one more thing, which is here. Where is that? Agent, oh yeah, input. Here is the input. Okay, and then we run the guardrail agent we have just created, like here, and whatever the result of it, we then return the guardrail function output. I know this is a lot of things, but when we are doing it, it will become really simple. So let's do it now. Here, as I told you, first it's going to be a normal agent. So agent is this, name is input guardrail. Now instruction is important. So we say that you are helpful assistant that can check if the input is, I can say, having the recipient email or not. This is the only thing we need to test. Now remember, we need to provide the output type. So we say output type is going to be check recipient email. Now we can simply create, it's going to be a Pydantic model, class, base model, and then we say is available. That means recipient email is available, which is going to be Boolean, and reason, whatever the reason is. So we have provided this agent, the output type, created the agent. Now it's time to create the decorator, or the function with the decorator, by the way. So I'll say async function def check email recipient. This function, remember, is going to accept the context, and context is going to be some run context wrapper. So run context wrapper is none. It should be from, again, from the agent. Okay, so this should be of this type. So at the top I say run context wrapper, and also input guardrail. We have imported these two, so run this. So after this we need the agent as agent, and finally input as a string. Okay, this is going to return the guardrail, what's that? Guardrail function output. So guardrail function output, once again we need to import this also, and then we need to decorate this function at input guardrail. That's it. Once we have all these things, then we are good to create the function. Remember, in this function we first need to run the guardrail agent we have created. This is an important concept. We will going to recap it, we will going to revise it, don't worry. This guardrail agent, we are passing entire input. So whatever the input is, we are passing it to the input guardrail, so that from that input it will check if recipient address is available or not. Okay, so once we have this, we know in this result we will going to get is available or the reason. Okay, so then we say return guardrail function output, and this need output information, which is coming like result, and then we also need one more thing, is trip triggered. I think this is output information, so it could be reason, and then here we say result dot final output dot is available. So when it is triggered, if it is not available, and finally we say not available, then trigger it. So let's first check this agent, how this is performing. So result is equal to run this, how are you, and since we are not providing any recipient, it should return is available to false and give the reason. So run this and see, it says is available is false. The input does not contain an email. Okay. Now what if I say, how are you, Sarthak at bitfumes.com. Now if I do this, what it says, oops, something is wrong. No, nothing is wrong. It says is available to true. The reason it contain the email. Cool. So this agent is working. That means when we use it, it should also trigger if not available the recipient email. Otherwise it will do nothing. Okay, so before actually using it, let's do the recap. We have an input guardrail. In this input guardrail, we are actually creating an agent which is going to check for the recipient email on the input we are providing. How do we provide the input to this agent? We have this function. We have this function which is actually having the input, the entire input. And that input we are running with this agent, the input guardrail agent. And when this agent returns the output, we actually return the guardrail function output. This means the original entire guardrail is this function. And now I'm going to use this function into our agent. But the question is, on which agent we can use this? So first of all, I'm going to clear every output. Since this thing, like whether we have the recipient address or not, is important on send email agent. So we can add the input guardrail as the check recipient email. And this should be above, so maybe I can move this cell above to the send email like here. Okay, so now we do have the input guardrail and then send email agent. Good. So now if we don't have the recipient email at this agent, it should trip. Let's see. We don't have any recipient email provided here. Let's run all from the top and it should trigger something, but it failed at any point. So it triggered, running. Okay, at this point it says some error. Agent is not callable. What is this? Okay, so the problem is we are using this agent name similar to the decorator we have. So maybe we can rename it to input guardrail agent and we call this like here. Okay, run again everything. Okay, it's working. Now let's wait and this should trigger the guardrail. But it seems like it didn't trigger. Why? See here, if I go, there is no guardrail information. And to understand why this is not triggered, we need to again go to the documentation. And in this documentation, it's clearly written that input guardrail are intended to run on user's input, So agent guardrail only run if the agent is the first agent. Remember, the send email is not the first agent. Okay, this means the email manager agent need the input guardrail like this, not the send email. So on the send email, where is that? Here we are. We can remove this and now let's test it one more time. This time it definitely going to trigger the guardrail and we can go into the traces, go back, reload, and you can see it is having very soon. And now it says email manager agent check recipient email. This seems like the guardrail. Yes, input guardrail actually triggered and it said that, hey, is available, false, the input text does not contain any email address. And that's how we say that, hey, the guardrail is tripped. So what we can do, we can handle it properly, and we actually move this into try catch. So we say try. Once everything is good, then print it. Otherwise, we have this exception. An exception is input guardrail tripped exception we have. And for this, we can again print like the recipient email is not available. We need to import it once again from our agents, like here. Cool. Let's go at the bottom. Again, it's good, and let's hit this. So finally, you can see the input is not having the recipient email. So let's add the recipient email into the first input we have. And the first input is here when we actually run the email manager agent. So here we have this. What we can do, we can use the f string. We can provide all this information, like send it to sarthak@bitfilms.com. We have all that thing, and that's good. Cool. Let's run it and see how this is performing. So it passes the 3-4 second. That means guardrail is not tripped, and we will have the email very soon. And finally, it is sending the email. We have the email. We can see the traces. It has all that thing. And the best part for the guardrail, if I check the check recipient email, the guardrail, it returned false. So it didn't trigger. If we check the agent response, the output is available. Yeah, it is available. So we don't have to trip and continue the process. So that's about the guardrail. Very important concept. You need to roll back, pause, play, and understand this concept in detail. Now remember, we have used all the OpenAI model. Initially, we used the Gemini 4o model, then we used Gemini 4.1 mini, and now we want to use any other model other than OpenAI model. So there are two ways to use any other model. One is using the Light LLM. Light LLM is just a library which is providing a single endpoint for any model inference. But the other way is much simpler and the native. So what you can do, whenever you define an agent, you have to define the OpenAI client, and the client is async OpenAI. How this is going to work, let's see. So on this, where we have, yeah, information agent. I'm choosing the information agent for a reason I'm going to tell you very soon. Above this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a Grok client. Remember, this is Grok with Q, not Grok with K. So this is good. And here I'm going to use async OpenAI, and this is imported from here. And now inside this, I need to provide the obviously API key as well as the base URL, which is very, very important. But the base URL has to be compatible with the OpenAI. So we are going to use apigrok.com/openai/v1. This is the one which is using the compatibility of OpenAI style of giving the response. Now we need to also import the OS for the API key. Now we need to provide the API key. So go to the .env file, and here I need to provide the Grok API key. For that, you need to log in into the Grok console. Once you are there, click on the API keys and create new API key. So I say Agent SDK, and it create it. Once we have, paste it, and that's good. Now to test this out, we are using exactly the way we use the OpenAI model. Now, which model you need to use, you can get it from the Grok. On the playground, you can find out the different models here. So right now we have this Quinn, DeepSeek, Gamma, whatever you want. This is the one which is by default added, so I'm going to use that. What is the latest update on the AI agent? Hit enter, and it gets some error. What error it is? It says invalid API key. So might be it's not getting the API key. So how I can test it? I just try to print it and see what it is giving. So print none. So it's not getting this API key. Why is that? Maybe I can check here. Grok API key is there. I can reload this, and where we are doing the load.env, we are not doing it. So if not, then use that. So load.env like this, and try to run it, and this time it says something else. Message must contain the word JSON in the form. Okay, so we have, so remove the JSON format and it should return the result very quick. Cool. Now since this new model is working, we need to create the model out of the client. Now what is this? So see, let's just clear this out. For this information agent, we need to provide the model, and I'm going to call it Grok model. Right now, what we have provided, we have created a client, not the model. How do we create the model? So Grok model is going to be OpenAI completion. Let me just go to the documentation and find it. Yeah, OpenAI chat completion model, like this. And we need to import it just like here. And finally, what we need to do, see how this is giving the model and the OpenAI client. Okay, so we provide the OpenAI client as the Grok client. Okay, and which model we need to use? Remember, we have used this model. Cool. Now we have this model. We can now run it and see the magic. We should run this by saying result is equal to information we should get. But if I run it, I am getting error. Now this is very important to understand why we are getting this error. It says hosted tools are not supported for chat completion API. What is the meaning of this? We have used a hosted tool. This means this tool is available on the OpenAI only. Now we have switched from OpenAI model to Grok model. Now Grok doesn't know about this web search tool. So it's important to understand, whenever you want to use any other model, you cannot use the native hosted tool. So we should remove it. And then if I try to run, obviously we are getting the response. So this is the way you should use the different model, and other way is you can use the light LLM, but this one is pretty much really nice. Now let's talk about the voice agent. This is the new and fresh thing on OpenAI Agent SDK. So with this, what we have to do, we just need to install the OpenAI Agent Voice, and then we can start building the voice agent. Now we can do UV add this. So this is done, and now what I will get here is, to create a voice agent you need to create a pipeline which is coming from the agents.voice. Then we grab this code, so copy this in a new tab or new code block. I'll paste it. Okay, now it says it need an agent. So for now I will say test agent is equal to agent, and it just giving the answer. Okay, now we have given the test agent, and finally we need to run the pipeline. So before that, what we have to do, we have to accept the sound from our system. For that we need the sound device, which is imported at SD, and then we need to configure it and then start the player. Okay, so this is a simple one. Get out from here, and okay, so here first of all, yes, we have all these things. We need to add the sound device, and then what it says you need to have all these things at this level. Cool. So here we are, and then np is numpy. So we need to also use the numpy, so import numpy as num, and all of these things we can import. So uv add numpy, And we have NumPy, we have sound device, and everything is good. We have created the pipeline, we created the buffer, audio input, we are accepting. Then we run that on this pipeline. So on this voice pipeline, we are passing out the audio we are saying. But to get that, we create the player, which is going to use the sound device. And after that, to play the sound, we are streaming and then returning to the player. So just remove this and let's try to run it. And it says some error. Agent is not defined. Yes, remember we need to import it from agents, import agent. That's it. Now run it. And again, web search tool is not defined. Where we are using web search tool here? Oh, I don't need to do that. Now let's try finally. Hey, hello, what happening? Something is not good. So
Sürpriz anlaşılmadı. Yan yerinde dip yazgansız. Lakin anın megnesin tügelerek anlatsagız. Yekin nerse turun.
I don't know what was that language is, but it was fun. And now to fix that issue, I changed a little bit. Here I have a duration for how many seconds this agent is going to listen for my voice. And then we are having this speak for the query. Then we have mic audio. So SD, which is sound device, is going to record for my voice. It is going to wait and then it is going to say recording done. Once this is done, then we are going to flatten that audio and finally pass it to audio input, which will be passed to the pipeline. Cool. Now this is good. So let's ask something. This is the agent which we have created is just normal agent. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask something. Hey, what's your name?
Hello, I'm ChatGPT, your AI assistant. How can I help you today?
So you can see this is really nice. We have created our first ever voice agent. Congratulations! Now, instead of using this test agent, we can simply use our email manager agent. And we have this email manager agent. Now, we are running the email manager agent here. Now, instead of doing this, what we can do, we can just comment everything. And then we say that, hey, the voice agent will take care of everything. So I'm going to run everything from top to bottom by saying run all and see what's going to happen. So send an email to my friend saying goodbye. I don't know what it picked because it just stopped the recording after 5 seconds. Let's see what's going to happen. Okay, so something is here. It says guardrail triggered. Why? Because we have not said in the prompt which we are giving via voice, like to whom we need to send the email. Okay, so let's quickly try it again. Send an email to sarthak@bitfumes.com saying this year was really awesome and amazing. Now let's see what it's going to do. It should send an email to sarthak@bitfumes.com, but that's going to be the powerful thing if it is going to really send it. And finally, we can see, yes, we do have the email here, which is saying reflecting an amazing year. This year was amazing. So this is the way you can create your agent, which can have a lot of amazing things. Now, since we have reached to the end of this course, as promised, I'm going to give you a bonus. This is the 12th one, and this is actually a voice triggered agent. So voice triggered agent means we can invoke it for certain word, and if it's not found, it's not doing anything, but if it found that word, then it start responding. So let's see. No response. Now listen. Jarvis, what is the capital of India?
The capital of India is New Delhi.
See, that was amazing, and it start listening whatever we are saying, but it will only respond when we say the word Jarvis. And so let's understand this Jarvis voice agent. We have a Python file where we are using this main and async IO because we need to run the await on our functions, and this is triggering this word voice agent. Now if I go here, this one is actually having an agent, a normal agent of Agent SDK, where we define a lot of things. Next, we have a listen for trigger. This is the function which is actually listening for trigger. And you can see this function is actually in a while loop. So that means for every second we are actually searching for the spoken words, and if the word Jarvis is available in our spoken word, then yes, we start recording and then we respond to that recording. This is again a simple example of the voice agent OpenAI SDK Agent SDK provides. You can do a lot of amazing things just with your voice, and this is really crazy. So you can play around all these things and let me know what you think about this Jarvis thing and what you think about this OpenAI Agent SDK. There are more amazing features of Agents SDK which I have not yet covered in this video, but that topics are not too difficult. They are very simple one. You can simply understand it by looking into the documentation, but most of the important concept is covered, and you can create high scale production ready agents for your need or for your company. If this video give you information you needed for creating the agent, then please go and hit subscribe button, and also share this video with your friends who really want to create the AI agent or want to get into the AI world. If you have any request for any other framework or anything else, let me know in the comment section. This is really helpful for me to work on the next big project. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.